Good day, everybody, and welcome to the webinar on Candy Foreign Currency Pricing. My name is Jijo Joshua, Regional Manager, Candy Operations here at the RIBCCS Gulf offices in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. It is my pleasure to present this webinar to you. In this webinar, I would take you through the foreign currency pricing in Candy. That is, if you are pricing a job where the bill of quantities needs to be displayed in multiple currencies, or if you're pricing a job where you'll be procuring resources in different currencies, we would run you through how to tackle that in Candy, how to report in multiple currencies, and so on. Due to the large number of people logged on into this webinar, we will not be able to answer any questions during the webinar. However, please submit your questions during the session with the function provided on screen. We will collate these questions and get in touch with you. Please note that the webinar will be recorded and you will receive a link to download it. There is a webinar once a month on various Candy topics. Should you not be able to attend the webinar at the given time frame, then please still do register for the webinar, as this will entitle you to receive a recorded copy of the webinar. Please remember that you would qualify to receive an attendance certificate for attending the webinar live. We will close off the session today by introducing you to the Candy Health Center, which is the gateways to Candy's knowledge base, as well as how to access our support lines. So a lot of good and useful information coming your way today. Let's get started. Okay, so how does the foreign currency pricing work? Where do I attach, or to what do I attach the currency codes in Candy? What kind of breakdown or analysis can I generate? Currency controlled at source, that is at the resource level, which is the basic building block for an estimate in Candy, provides for a currency breakdown per bill item. And we will run you through how would you go about doing that. So when will you find the foreign currency pricing tools in Candy useful, or when would you go and deploy these tools? When the client submission, when the client BOQ requires your bid to be in a currency other than your pricing currency. You are pricing a project in the UAE, you're pricing in dirhams, but your client would prefer to see the rates in US dollars. You can use the Candy foreign currency functionality then. You're working in a JV. This project is a JV between two companies. Your JV partner is from Egypt. They want to see the rates converted, or they want to see the rates in AED and Egyptian pound side by side, or any currency for that matter. You would use the Candy foreign currency pricing tool set then. When you're pricing a job with resources procured in different currencies, meaning you're pricing a project in the UAE, but you're buying your diesel in Saudi riyals, you are procuring your equipment, or you're paying your equipment supplier in dollars, the Candy foreign currency pricing tools would be used then. And you need to generate a breakdown of your or need to generate an analysis of the foreign currencies used. You need to know, on this project, how much US dollars should I allow for, how much Egyptian pounds, how much of Saudi riyal should I account for. So if you want to generate a currency analysis, the foreign currency tools in Candy comes to your rescue then. So what will we be covering in this webinar today? We'll be looking at the pricing currency, the base currency. We will look at how the foreign currencies are defined in relationship to the base currency. We'll also look at how to copy the currency codes, definitions, and the currency exchange rates from the master. We'll talk about the primary foreign currency. We'll talk about resource rates, the base rate and the final rate specifically. We'll look at allocating currency codes to resources. How do we go about attaching the currency codes to resources? We'll look at dual currency bill settings. We'll look at multiple currency subcontract adjudication, as well as multiple currency material adjudication, and we look at multiple currency reporting and where are currency codes used in other modules within Candy. Right, so let's start with looking at the pricing currencies. How many foreign currencies can you define? What is the primary foreign currency? As you see, most of the action on this webinar will be happening in Candy. We'll be showing you the system live. So without spending much time here on the PowerPoint slide, I would like to quickly move across to Candy. I've kept a job ready for you to look at. So this is your Candy interface, a very familiar Candy interface. I'll just double click and open up, get into this project, and let me go and open up the bill of quantities on this job. So this is the BOQ. I've got a bill of quantities with the net rate, net amount on. Let me just click on the calculate button. So my heading totals are recalculated. 8.2 million is the total net amount. I've got rates here. I've got the bill net amounts. However, there's no reference to what currency is it. It doesn't tell me anywhere on the screen, is it dirhams or US dollars or Egyptian pounds? No reference to the currency. So this is the first thing that an estimator need to establish when he sets up the job, is to establish the pricing currency. And that's what we're going to do. So where do we go and set up our pricing currency? We would go to the definitions and settings. Now, how do I go and access my definitions and settings? I could go through, work through the menus. Let's go to the main menu. Under main, I can go and look at my definitions and settings. Yes, the first option there, right? Or what I could also do is, because I know that I could use the tool buttons, I know the definitions and settings can also be accessed via the gear icon. I can click on the gear icon, brings up the screen here. I could have done the same thing from main, definitions and settings, brings up my definitions and settings on here. Right, okay. Now, what some of you would have noticed or picked up, it says, Jijo, why does your icons look different to what we have on screen? We are used to the blue book for the document manager here. You've got a different icon for the document manager. We're used to the hammer for the estimating definitions and settings. We are used to the Libra balance for the adjudicator. You've got a whole set of different icons and tool buttons here. How does this work? How do we get to this this set of icons or this interface? Very simple. On the right hand side, you've got your system preferences. That's again a set of gears on your right. I just click on that, and there on the interface, what I've done is I've selected my icons to be scalable. Now, let me just switch back to the old icons for a bit just to show you. So if I would have selected it to be medium or small, so let me just go and select medium for now. You would have noticed that, yeah, now I've got all those old familiar icons, be the shortcut for the bill of quantities. Here's my pie for the trade totals. That's the Libra balance for the subcontract adjudicator, the blue hammer for definitions and settings, and the blue book for my estimating document manager. Now, we would recommend that you use the scalable icons, the new icons, for obvious benefits. Yeah, so you could move it to any screen and it will scale. And this is the tool buttons that are going to be used, or that are going to be carried on forward. But we've still retained the old icons for people who don't want to change, or who prefer seeing the old icons on there. We've still kept the old icons active for you. Right. I would recommend that we move on to the scalable icons and the new themes and interface. All right. So what we wanted to look at was, yes, the bill of quantities, and we were talking about the estimation definitions and settings, which we said was the gear. I could hover over this tool icons and it will give me the screen tip. It will tell me what these icons are for, or what these tool buttons are for. Now, the first thing that you need to do is establish your pricing currency. So where would I go about doing that? It's under General Settings 5.1. Under 5.1, here, name of the pricing currency. Okay, you've got the other information that you could edit in, like the estimate base date, when did you start off with this estimate, what revision number are you on, what is the current date, and so on. There I've got my name of the pricing currency. So what we've done is we've typed in AED or UAE dirhams as the pricing currency. We've also defined a primary foreign currency. So we've got the pricing currency, which is AED. That's what we would refer to as the base currency. So I've decided, or on this project, which I'm pricing in the UAE, bulk of the resources would be procured in UAE dirhams. I'd pay my labor in dirhams. I'd pay all the materials in dirhams. So bulk of the resources that I'd procure it would be paid off in dirhams. I need to report back to the client in dirhams as well. So that's why I've selected my home currency or my pricing currency as AED. Now, there might be a requirement from the client that you need to report in AED and US dollars side by side. The client might be, let's say, the US Air Force, and you want to report your selling rates to the client in AED and US dollars side by side. So in that case, what I could then do is I could go and select my primary foreign currency to be US dollars. Now you'd say, can I only have 2 currency codes? Then no, you could have a lot more currencies defined. From the drop-down list, I could go and switch. I could change. I could toggle between my. I could change my primary foreign currency at any point in time. Now you would say, where would you go and define all these currency codes? Yes, I can see the currency codes defined here, but where are the exchange rates? I don't know what exchange rates are they is being defined or is being used. So you see that I've got, besides AED, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 currency codes defined. And where are the currency codes defined in Candy? The currency codes are defined in the currency exchange rates section 4.4. Still under definitions and settings, but in the currency exchange rates. So here under currency exchange rates, you will notice if I click on the right hand side, my pricing currency is defined as AED. That's what I did in the previous screen. I said my pricing currency or my home currency is AED. The primary foreign currency is defined as US dollars. Again, picks it up from the previous screen. What I've got here is I've got some foreign currencies defined. Let me just move this around out of the way. Right. So the foreign currencies, what are the foreign currencies that we've defined here? We've got GBP, the Great Britain pound, okay, and you notice that the factor that is typed in here is the number that converts the foreign currency into your base currency or your home currency. So remember, the factor is the number that converts your foreign currency to your base currency or your home currency. What we would want to do is, if we have procured any resources, if we're paying for any resources in foreign currency, we would want all those foreign currency to be converted back to the base currency or the home currency of AED. So here this 4.484, what does that factor tell you? It says, okay, 1 Great Britain pound is 4.84 AED. And I can have a small remark. We've got 40 character remark line here. And I could go and type in a remark that, okay, listen, this was updated, this exchange rate was updated from XC on the, let's say, the 10th of May 2022. Similarly, I've got my next currency code. So you will notice that for the currency code, we have used alphabets. I could use 2 or a 3 character alphabetic code here. We've used GBP for pound sterling. I'm going to use LE, or we've used LE for Egyptian pound. Now here, you'll notice that we've used the exchange rate. Okay, and my exchange rate and the factor is different. How does it work? So what we've got here is, we know that 1 AED is 4.27 Egyptian pounds. 1 AED is 4.27 Egyptian pounds. So what does this reciprocal function that we've got on screen do? The reciprocal function gives you the inverse, and it tells you that, okay, listen, you know what, you want your factor to convert foreign currency, which is Egyptian pounds, back to your base currency or your home currency, that is your pricing currency, which is AED. So by using the inverse function or the reciprocal function, what we've got here is we've calculated, or Candy has calculated that, listen, one Egyptian pound is actually 0.234192 AED. So remember, the factor should always convert your foreign currency back to your base currency, AED. One Omani Riyal is 9.54 AED and one US dollar is 3.67 AED. Now, how do I go about defining my currency codes? So let me do two more. So let's define the currency codes. Before I go and define the currency codes, let me type in these, or let me copy these comments from up here. So all these currencies were last updated on 10th of May. I could just press Ctrl J to copy the comments from above. So the shortcut, the keyboard shortcut, Ctrl J to copy the comments from the line above and copy it down. So I'm going to define two more currencies here. The first currency that I'm going to define is SAR. I've used alphabets and capitals. I could have used lowercase for the code itself. Candy wouldn't mind. This is Saudi Riyal. Saudi Riyal. And the Saudi Riyal, the exchange rate, or you know that one Saudi Riyal is 0.98 AED. 0.98 AED. Okay, so one Saudi Riyal is 0.98 AED. That's what I've typed in the exchange rate. The same applies on the factor. Let me do one more to show you how the reciprocal function works. Let's say INR, which is Indian rupee. Now the Indian rupee, you know that one AED currently is at around 20.5. I typed that 20.5, so one AED is around 20.5 Indian rupee. Now, what we said was we want the factor to convert the foreign currency INR back to AED. And what we put in the exchange rate is, we said one AED is 20 or 20.5 rupees. We want the inverse here. We want the reciprocal to be worked out as a factor. So I will use the reciprocal function. So it tells you, okay, listen, one rupee, one Indian rupee is 0.048704. Right. So that's how the factor, how the inverse function works. I could go and copy the comments from above, Control J down. I could edit the comments if I want, and that's how we go and about defining our currency. So how many currencies can I define, or how many currency codes can I define besides the pricing currency, which is AED? In this case, I can go about and define around 16 different foreign currencies. Okay. Once you've defined a foreign currency, can I delete it? So let's say, for example, I would want to delete my Indian, the currency code for Indian rupee. I can just right click and delete, or Control delete. Please confirm that you wish to delete this code. Like everything else in Candy, before you delete anything, Candy will reconfirm with you. Remember, if this currency code was used, if this currency code was attached to a resource, Candy will not allow you to delete it. But in this case, I know I've defined the currency code INR just now, and I've not attached it to any resource. So Candy will allow me to delete it, but it would do that check for you first. Searching for the use of this code may take a while. Would you like to continue? Yes, please. And since it was not used, that currency code is deleted. Right, so we've shown you how to define the currency codes in Candy under definitions and settings. If these currency codes were already defined in the master, many companies have a predefined master where they have got all the codes defined, the trade codes, the resource types, the resource codes, the resource structure, the cost codes, the task codes. So most of the companies, most of the estimating teams have got predefined master. So if you've got these currency codes as a part of your master, you don't have to go and define it on each and every job. All you've got to do is tools and import exchange rates from master or update currency exchange rates from master. Okay. So we've got the facility to copy your currency codes and the exchange rates or the factors from the master. And that's what you'll probably be doing from one job to another, and your last job becomes the master for the next job going forward. Right, so we've discussed the pricing currency. We talked about how to define the currency codes. Let's go back again to general settings, and here we've put in our primary foreign currency as US dollars. As I said, it might be a requirement from the client that you need to see the selling rates on the BOQ side by side in dirhams and dollars. You could very well do that, having your columns for your pricing currency and the primary foreign currency side by side. Can I switch between currency? Can I go and make pound sterling to be my primary foreign currency? Yes, you can. So you can use the drop down list to switch between the currencies. Right. Now, let's click on OK. So let's go and open up a bill of quantities where I would like to see my rates, the selling rates and the net rates displayed in AED and US dollars side by side. So we would go back to the document manager. How do I go to the document manager? I would click on this tool button here, or the icon here. Document manager opens up my standard documents. What I've done for this webinar to save us time is I've created document layouts with the relevant columns on. So the first document that I'm going to open up here is the markup bill with selling rates and primary foreign currency. 1.6A is what I've called it. Now, how do you create these customized documents? Candy, as you know, is very flexible. You could go about and create your own documents. You can call them what you like. I've created this document. How did I go about creating this document? I went to the new document button on my document manager under the section called bill pricing. I picked up the markup bill, and then I created a document, or I've just renamed it to call it 1.6A or 1.6T. You would notice that my markup bill gets added to wherever my cursor was. If I want to put it into position, I can definitely drag it and bring it up to where I like it to be. I can drag it and bring it up to where I like it to be. I could right click and rename it. Right click and rename it to, let's say, 1.6D markup bill, my preferred layout. And then you would go and edit the columns to reflect the columns that you need. So this is called the My Preferred Layout, and these are the standard set of columns. Because I picked up a standard document from the list, I could go to View, Add and Remove Columns, and pick and choose the columns that I need. Now, what I'm going to do is, because we've already created a document with the columns that I need, I'm going to open up this 1.6A. And here you would notice what it shows me is my net rates in AED. Remember, whenever there is no currency mentioned against a rate and an amount, either against it in the row or on the column headers, it means that it defaults to the base currency or the home currency, which is AED in this case. So here, clearance strip site, the net rate for that item is 3.04 dirhams per square meter, right? The selling rate for that item is 3.34 dirhams per square meter. So I've got my net rate, I've got my selling rate in AED, and I've got the corresponding amounts. Now, as I said, the client might want to see my selling rate in dollars, so the dollar equivalent of that. So what I've done is I've added the column for US dollars, the selling rate and the selling amount. So you'll see I can now report my selling rate against the BOQ line items in AED and US dollars side by side. So let's say, for example, you say, no, can we add the net rate and the net amount in US dollars as well into this document? Yes, why not? You can. Like I said, you go to View, Add and Remove Columns, and then pick up the columns that you need. So where would I go to pick up the columns? I would go to my primary foreign currency section. Okay, so I could go and open up all the headings if I wanted to, using this tool here. Or I could even use the search function, primary foreign currency. Let's go and find the primary foreign currency here. So there you go, brings up the first occurrence of the primary. I want to look at primary foreign, you can type it in, find next. There you go, the section for primary foreign currency. What have you got? We already got the selling rate and the selling bill amount in primary currency. I would like to have my net rate in primary currency, which is US dollars, net bill amount in primary currency, and I might also want to bring in a double vertical line as a separator. I'd also like to add a double vertical line here. So now, if I click on OK, there you see, I've got my net rate in AED, I've got my net rate in US dollars, I've got my net rate in AED, or my selling rate in AED, and my selling rate in US dollars, and the corresponding amount side by side. Interesting, isn't it? So you don't have to worry about did I put in my conversion factor right against page 20 item F, or I updated it line by line, did I forget? No, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do any of that Excel jugglery no longer. You could do this very well in Candy. And if the exchange rates, or if the factor changes, all I've got to do, come here into my currency exchange rates, go to the currency exchange rate field here, 4.4, and say, all right, you know what, $1 is 3.67 dirhams. But let's say, just to show you an example, if it was 5 dirhams, $1 is 5 dirhams, and if I click on OK, and now let me just click on calculate here, you would notice that yes, my net rates in AED still remain the same, but my dollar rates have changed. Yeah. So any changes in the currency exchange rates in your definitions and settings, so it's 3.678. Click on OK. Let me click on calculate. You would notice is picked up on the bill documents. Quite simple. But then you would say, Jijo, this is good. This will help me save time and help me minimize errors. I could report in multiple currencies, especially when you're working with a JV partner who's used to looking at the rates in a different currency than yours. They're used to working at US dollar rates or Egyptian pound rates. You can very well use the primary currency switch to switch between currencies, and you can report both the currencies at the same time. Now, you say this is a simple conversion. I could probably do this in Excel as well. But the use of currency code and the foreign currency function tools in Candy has got a much deeper purpose, and we're going to do a deep dive into the currency code and the use of currency code, and how do we allocate currency code to resources, and what reports and analysis can be generated out of it. So what we're going to look at is, let's go back to the bill, the standard bill of quantities, and you might come across a scenario where you've got multiple currency codes in play in the analysis or in the worksheet for one item. Let's take an example. Here, I've got an item called clearance strip site. The estimator says for us to clearance strip site as a contractor, the cost to company is 3.04 dirhams per square meter. Now, how did he come to this rate, or how did he come to this, what is the analysis behind that? If I double click on that rate, it will show me the worksheet behind it, the analysis behind it. Now, the worksheet behind it is the first principles method of pricing, and we all know and seen the worksheet, we know the detail behind it, we know the resources. So here, what the estimator has used is he's used a JD 410 digger loader, he's got a tipper, he's got the unskilled labor, and he's got the productivity detail. He says that for clearance strip side, I would need a team of 1 digger loader, 2 tippers, and 4 unskilled laborers. And in half a day, this team will clear an area of 710 square meters, and that's how we arrived at a rate of 3.04 dirhams per square meter. Now, if I look at the digger loader, 1484 per day, I know it's a complex resource. If I double click on that, there is calculation analysis behind it. So what have we got behind the digger loader? Daily rate is the hiring charges of the digger loader. We'll be hiring the equipment on this project. The hiring charges is 125 dirhams an hour. There's diesel that I need to procure. The diesel is at 2.85 dirhams a liter. The driver is 184.45 dirhams per day. Now, you might come across a scenario. There are very good chances that you've got multiple currencies in play. You might be hiring your digger loader, or you might have to pay your plant supply in US dollars. You might be importing the diesel from Saudi, so you need to pay your fuel supplier in Saudi riyals, or you need to account for Saudi riyals, and you might be paying your driver in local currency, which is AED. So in one complex, against one item, you might have a combination of different currencies and in different proportions. So the trick is, how can I then go and generate an analysis of the currency breakdown analysis per bill item? I can sum it up for the total bill to tell me how much of that rate, or what is the US dollar component of that rate, what is the AED component of that rate, what's the local component, the foreign component, and generate an analysis for my company or for the estimator. So this is where the Candy currency codes become useful, and that's how they work. We will show you how to allocate the currency codes to the resources just now. Right, so coming back to our PowerPoint slide, we discuss the pricing currency. We've shown you how to define the foreign currencies. We've discussed the primary foreign currency. The next thing on the agenda is the resources. What are the rates that we're going to discuss? We're going to discuss the base rate for a resource and the final rate. So let me get back into Candy. Let me open up the resource list R. So there is your resource list R, right? And you've got a neat structured resource list. I could go to view level, close all the headings. So I've got a neat structured resource list. This is something that we recommend as a good practice, to be structuring your resources in the logical headings. Follow a sequence for your resource code. So if I were to look for my labor resources, I know all my L series, or the L2 series is my labor resources. My labor operatives is L22 series, and the gangs are L24 series, and so on. Now I'm looking for my resource called the sheet metal. So I'm looking for my M&E materials. So there you go, that's my M&E materials, and there is the sheet metal. There is 0.8 22 gauge sheet metal. Right. Okay. Now, if I look at that resource, the resource rate is 60 dirhams per square meter, 60.10. Now, before I come and talk about the sheet metal, let's go and look at another resource. Okay, what resource are you looking at? I'm looking at my fuel, diesel. Okay, so there you go, diesel. My final rate for diesel is 2.85 dirhams per liter. So if you look at resource code 4514, it's a material resource, type N, diesel. You're buying diesel per liter, and you're saying that the cost to buy diesel per liter, the cost to company is 2.85 dirhams a liter. Again, as I mentioned, that there is no reference to the currency here, there's no tag, so it is assumed to be in the home currency, or the pricing currency, which is AED. Now, you would say, you mentioned something about a base rate. How does the base rate work? How would we go about using the base rate? So let's go and have a look example. What I'm going to do again is go back to the document manager, the icon. I've closed my resource list, go back to the document manager, go to the tab called resources. We were in the section called estimating bills. I would go to resources, and I've got a document which has got all the columns. I've got a resource document which has got all the columns that I need. It has got the base rate, the currency code, and the final rate column. So let's just go and open up section or open up document 1.3. Now what you would have noticed is when I clicked on R, the shortcut, the tool button, 1.1 resource list document got opened up. Why? Because this button R is hard-coded or is linked to resource list. What I could then do is, because I know that at least for this webinar, this document, the base rate percentages, tax and currency, this is a document that I'll be working on, and I want to link or I want to attach this icon R to this document. I could just right click and say, okay, link, unlink. Please link to the resource icon, meaning every time that I click on R going forward until I go and change it, it will open up 1.3. Okay, so here this document has got all the columns that I need and probably some more columns. So let's look at diesel, resource code 4514. It's got a final rate of 2.85 dirhams a liter. Now, one thing to remember is your final rate would always or should always be in the pricing currency. The final rate, the value for the final rate should always be in the pricing currency. It is, the final rate is the rate that is used on the worksheets, rate that is used for the rate build-up on the analysis on the worksheet, in your price code worksheets and your complexes. So the final rate should always be in your pricing currency. In this case, our pricing currency is AED. So what I'm saying here is diesel, resource code 4514. We're buying diesel per liter, and the cost to company is 2.85 dirhams a liter. And you would notice that I haven't got a base rate here. There's no base rate. Now, we'll talk about the base rate with an example. Let's go down and have a look at the sheet metal. Resource code 701002 is the resource code. It's again a type M or a material resource. Now, what's happening with sheet metal is I would be procuring my sheet metal in US dollars. I'd be procuring my sheet metal in US dollars. Okay, all right. But I'm pricing this job in AED. Yes, I'm procuring these resources in US dollar, but I'm pricing this project in AED. So I want the AED equivalent or the purchase price in AED for me to be able to price. So what we've done here is you will notice that we've used the base rate. So the sheet metal, 0.8 22 gauge sheet metal, 0.8 mm 22 gauge sheet metal, is saying that the base rate is 16.34. Right, 16.34 US dollars. How do I know it's US dollars? Because in the currency exchange or in the currency code column, you've got the currency code defined as US dollars. And then you would notice that your final rate is calculated as 60.10. If I double click on 60.10, notice that how is it calculated? 0.8 mm 22 gauge sheet metal per square meter. The base rate is 16.34 US dollars. The currency factor is used as 3.678. Why is 3.678? Is because you've used the currency code of the USD, and we've just a few steps earlier defined the currency exchange or the currency factor to be 3.678. So the final rate in AED is 6.10. So you see that because you chose to display it to two decimal places, it displays it to two decimal places. Right. Well, Candy calculations, as you know, works out to seven decimal places. So the level of accuracy there. Now, so this is how we use the base rate and the final rate. If I am procuring a resource in any other currency other than my pricing currency, which is AED, I would go and type in the base rate there. So I'm pricing, or I'm procuring the sheet metal on this project in US dollars. So my base rate in US dollars is 16.34. But how does Candy know it is in US dollars? Is you go and attach the currency code here, and your final rate is calculated back in AED. Now we're going to use this example, or we're going to show you with an example. Let's go back to diesel. Let's say The diesel on this project will be imported from KSA, from Saudi Arabia, and the purchase price is 2.5 Saudi riyals. 2.5 Saudi riyals. So what would I do here? I would go to my resource code for diesel. I say, okay, you know what? I'm going to be purchasing diesel. So in Saudi riyals, so 2.5 is what I type in. And you will notice the moment you go and type in your base rate as 2.5, the same is reflected in your final rate. You said you're going to buy your diesel per liter at 2.5 dirham or Saudi riyal per liter. So the final rate, the same rate is reflected. But what we said just now is the final rate should always be in the pricing currency, which is AED. So how would I go about doing that? Candy yet doesn't know that this 2.5 is not dirhams, but it is Saudi riyal. How do we tell Candy that the base rate that we're going to procure this resource in Saudi riyal is? You go and attach the currency code here. How do I attach a currency code? I could double click and say, okay, what are the foreign currencies that I've defined? Okay, there you go, Saudi riyal, green tick. So one Saudi riyal is 0.98 AED. So you'll notice that your final rate is calculated as 2.45. So 2.45, yes. The base rate is 2.5. You're buying the diesel in Saudi riyals. The factor, currency exchange factor, 0.98 is applied, and your final rate in AED is 2.45. So you will notice that there are a lot of resources that don't have a base rate. All these resources all those resources that don't have a base rate, what we're saying here is we are pricing them or we're procuring them in your pricing currency, which is AED, or there's no factors on these items or on these resources, all right? Okay, so we understand the base rate. The base rate is a way to get to our, is one stop to get to our final rate. If you're procuring resources in any other currency other than your home currency or your pricing currency, you must have the base rate mentioned in the foreign currency. So here I'm buying diesel at 2.5 Saudi riyals per liter, and my final rate is calculated as 2.45 dirhams per liter, and 2.45 dirhams per liter is what will be used on your worksheets, right? So that's how the final rate and the base rates work. Can I have any other factors working on it? So let's just go and say, all right, you know what, that's my base rate. I'm buying the sheet metal on this project at 16.34 dirhams per, or 16.34 US dollar per square meter. You know what, I would like to go and add a 15% surcharge on top of it. So we've got a column for a surcharge here. So you'd see your final rate is 60.10 now, but wait, let me click on hit enter. You'll see my final rate is now 69.1. How is it calculated? I've got my base rate of 16.34 US dollars per square meter. The currency exchange factor converts it to AED, and then you've got a 15% surcharge on top of it. So your final rate in AED after the currency conversion and after applying the surcharge is 69.11. I could go and apply a discount as well, works the same way. I can take out that surcharge, right? So this is what happened. Now, you would notice that there are certain resources that I'm procuring in foreign currency. So and they are far and about. How do I go and search for all the resources that I'm not buying in my local currency? So what we've got in Candy on the same document is, you go to View, Group By, Group Resources by the currency code. But Gijo, I don't see a currency code there. I don't see an option to group it by currency codes. Wait, let's go to View, Group By, and let's use a custom group by. Okay, how are you going to group it by? I want to group the resources using my currency code. So what it does is, if I go to View, close all the headings, these are the currencies used on this job, and these are the resources that you would be procuring in foreign currency. So there you see my plaster sand I'll be procuring my plaster sand in GBP, and 15.15 is the base rate. The building sand is 12.12 that I'll be buying in GBP as well. And my final rate is calculated using the currency exchange rate of 4.84. Similarly, if I look at Saudi Riyal, that's a new code that I defined, new currency code that I defined. I'm buying my diesel in Saudi Riyal, 2.5. The base rate is 2.5. The final rate is calculated as 2.45. And in US dollars, I'm buying the sheet metal in US dollars. I'm paying for the roller and the pan compactor, that's equipment in US dollars, right? So you can very well see which resources among a list of 1,000 resources that I'd be procuring in a currency other than my base currency, which is AED. If I click on abandon, I could still see the same information. So there you go, my river sand, I'm procuring in Omani Riyal, the crusher sand in Omani Riyal. How do I know? Because of the currency code RO. And the filler sand in Egyptian pounds, LE, and the plaster sand in GBP. We could actually give you a breakdown of these rates against the BOQ line items. So you know that these resources, if I talk about diesel for that matter that I'm buying in Saudi Riyals, or that I'll be procuring in Saudi Riyals for this project, is used on numerous bill items. It is used in the build-up of numerous equipments, which is used to price multiple bill items going forward. How can I generate a breakdown of these resources against the bill items? All right. So what we could generate here in Candy is this. If I go back to my document manager, go to the section called estimating bills. Under the section estimating bills, I've got a layout which talks about currency split per bill item. Currency split per bill item, 3.4. Let me go and open up that document, currency split per bill item. And there you see you've got your net total. This project, the total net amount, 8.2 million. Let me just click on calculate. And what have I got on the right hand side? So of that 8.1 million, you need to account for 7.7 million worth of dirhams, your base currency. You need to account for pound sterling. So you need to allow for 12,741 dirhams to buy pound sterling on this project. You need to account for 41,411 Egyptian pounds to buy the equivalent Egyptian pounds. And you need to account for 131,000 dirhams to account for the Omani Riyals that you need to purchase. And say, okay, all these splits that you've got, the currency splits that you've got against each BOQ line item, and the summary therein is mentioned in AED. Can I see it in the original currency? Can we see a breakdown of the rates? Can I see a currency breakdown against the BOQ line items as per the original rates? Can we do that? Why not? I could just right click on the currency code column, right click, column options. I say, all right, instead of showing the base currency or the pricing currency, can we please see the breakdown in the original currency? So here it says, okay, the net total on this project is 8.1 million, correct? And of that 8.1 million dirhams, you need to account for 7.7 million dirhams in AED. You need to you need to purchase pound sterling, 2,632 pounds sterling, 176,000 Egyptian pounds, 13,789 Omani Riyals, and 119,000 Saudi Riyals. So this reports in the original currency, the currency at which you'll be procuring the resources, and the breakdown against the BOQ line items if you want. I could also go and view it as per the AED. Select the currency as per AED. Okay. So there is your breakdown against the BOQ line items. Now, we've seen that. We've seen the breakdown against the BOQ line items. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to discuss the dual currency listing. So let's go back to our PowerPoint slide. What's the next thing on the agenda? The next thing on the agenda is we've discussed allocating currency codes to resources. Now we are going to look at the dual currency bill settings. Dual currency bill settings, let me come back into Candy. What do I mean by dual currency bill settings? If If I go to the Candy or to the gear icon, Candy definitions and settings, we go to the section 5.3, dual currency bill settings, the currency code for the local component. So you would say, all right, on certain projects, especially international projects, you might come across a requirement where you would have, let's say, you want the local currency and the foreign currencies to be segregated. Okay, the local component to be reported in AED and all the foreign currencies. If I've used a mix of currencies, I've got certain resources procured in Saudi Riyal, certain resources in Egyptian pound, certain in Great Britain pound. I want all those foreign components to be reported in one currency, one foreign currency, US dollar. So the currency code for the local component, if you haven't selected anything of the drop down, it means that you want to be the local component to be in AED, which is a pricing currency. Local component I've selected to be AED here. The foreign component, I want all the foreign currencies that I might have used in the mix in the build-up of the item. I want it to be reported in US dollars. Okay, and depending on the currencies that you've selected, you can choose the rate and amount decimals as well. Meaning, if you're working with AED or Qatari Riyal or Saudi Riyal, you would want to choose keep your decimals to 2 decimal places. But if you're working with currencies like Kuwaiti dinar or Omani Riyal, you would want to work to 3 decimal places. All right, let me click on OK. Let me just zap the document and back to the document manager. We've got a document created for you, ready for you, 3.4a dual currency. Okay, all right, 3.4a dual currency. So here, this document explains the dual currency concept and what reports can we generate and so on. So here, if you notice, if I look at the item clear and strip site, clear and strip site, I've got the AED component and I've got Saudi Riyal. So bulk of the resources that are deployed to price this bill item, clear and strip site, I'm paying in dirhams, but the diesel which is used inside the digger loader and the tipper, I'm buying that in Saudi Riyal. So you'll see that I'll be spending 1,940 dirhams worth of diesel, and we can give you the conversion back into Saudi Riyals as well. So there. Now, if you notice what we've done on the dual currency pricing document, to your right hand side is this. Let me go and open up this document once again, close this and open up this document once again. So the document opens up to the full width. There you go. Yeah. So the local and the foreign component is segregated into dirhams and dollars respectively. Any other currencies in play used in the analysis of a bill item is reported in the foreign component. So here on this concrete items, I've got dirhams, Egyptian pounds because I'm buying my sand in Egyptian pounds, the Omani Riyals, Saudi Riyals because I'll be buying the diesel in Saudi Riyals. I've got all these currencies in play, the splits. Yes, we can very well generate the splits into the currencies, and we can also segregate them into the local component, which is AED of that rate 42.41. That's the local component 37, and all the other foreign currency. What does it make up? The equivalent in US dollars, the foreign currency or the foreign component in US dollars. So it's very, very easy to report that split. Yes, I've got a mix in different proportions, or currencies working in different proportions on different items, but reporting it, as you see, is a breeze. So if any of your currency exchange rates changes, all I've got to do is come back to my settings, go back to the currency exchange rates 4.4, update the currency exchange rates, a factor here, and that changes would be picked up on the bill immediately. So there is very, very slim chances that you might forget or make a mistake. Why? Because now I don't have to go and update my currency rate against each BOQ line item. I just have to go and update it one place against my currency exchange codes. Right. So we have looked at the dual currency pricing. The next thing that I would like to show you, let's get back to the PowerPoint. The next thing on the agenda is the multiple currency subcontract adjudication, the multiple currency subcontract adjudication, and the multiple currency material adjudication. So how does it work now? So what we're going to do is let's zap and call up the subcontract adjudicator. So let's open up the subcontract adjudicator here, and I am going to be using subcontract adjudicator 2. There's a new adjudicator that we are busy working with, and you would be seeing glimpses of the new adjudicator going forward, but for now we would keep it on the document that the majority of our users are very familiar with. So let me go and open up this painting package. So there you go. I've got my painting package, and I've got 3 subcontractors who've quoted for the painting package. So we don't have to get or discuss on the details of how this package is created. I know you're all very familiar with creating subcontractor packages and use this functionality quite a bit. What we're going to discuss is the use of currency codes in the subcontract package, or how do we handle it when we have a subcontractor who's quoted in a currency other than our base currency or pricing currency. So here I've got my painting package. I've got 3 subcontractors who've quoted sea green, rainbow colors, and art deco. Now you would have look at the rates here. Sea green has quoted for the fiber reinforced cement ceilings. He's quoted 15.75 dirhams per square meter. Rainbow colors has quoted 20.12 dirhams per square meter. Of course, he's given me a discount as well, so it's a pretty different rate. But here, look at Art Deco, 5.18. Now, if you look at all the items that Art Deco has priced, you see that his rates appear to be consistently lower. But look at the amounts now, 51,000. 59,000, 60,000. There seems something amiss. Something doesn't look to be right. So how do I know? Or is this a problem? Is this a finger problem? Did somebody type in the wrong rates? Not really. If you notice, if you look closely on Art Deco, you would notice that these rates that are quoted by Art Deco, they are not in dirhams, they are in US dollars. How do I know they are in US dollars? Is because in the currency code column against that subcontractor, the estimator has selected the currency code USD. So there you go, 5.18. So this is not 5.18 dirhams per square meter. It's actually 5.18 times 3.67, around 16 dirhams per square meter that he's quoted for that fiber reinforced ceiling. So yes, the rates are displayed in the original currency, which is US dollars. However, the amounts, when Candy converts those amounts for comparison purposes, when you're comparing the package, it is converted back to your base currency or your pricing currency, which is AED, right? So the Candy takes care that it will apply the currency exchange rate, the factor that you define under the hammer when it calculates the amounts. Now, I want to transfer these rates back to the bill. I want to use Art Deco, Deco's rates back to the bill. Let's say, for example, I've decided to use his rates on the BOQ. Now, if I double click on it, for now, you would notice that sea green's rates is what's used on the bill. So how do I know it's sea green? Is because the subcontractor sea green is highlighted. If I double click on that item, it takes me to that item. 51,207 is the total of the painting package, which is exactly the total of what sea green has quoted me. But now I've decided that I would want to use Art Deco's rates. So I want to transfer these rates back to my bill. I want to transfer this rates back to my resources. So what do? Rates to bill. When I click on rates to bill, we have previously used resource code 9016 for the painting subcontractor. The unit is lump sum because it's a subcontract resource. The rate is 1. Everything is fine, and it says, listen, for you to transfer this rate back to the resource list, back to the bill, the resource must have a currency code of USD. This resource must have a currency code of USD. Now, what currency code is allocated currently? None. Okay, so there's no currency code allocated. So if you want to go ahead with this transfer, you must have a currency code of USD. If I just click on ignore, okay, it says currency code required, won't let me go any further. So what we're going to do now is go back to the resource list, and I could, I know I could go and search for that resource 9016. I could do this. I could start a new filter. I say, okay, bring me the resource code 9016, hide the rejects, there it is. Or because I've got a structured resource list, I could just do this view level, close all the headings. I know all my subcontractors are the 9 series. Okay, what subcontractors are you looking for? The domestic subcontractors. Which one is it? The painting subcontractor. All right. So you said to go ahead with the transfer, to transfer Art Deco's rates back to the BOQ, to the painting items on the bill, you must go and assign a currency code. So you will notice 9016 doesn't have a currency code allocated. But what is the prerequisite to have a currency code allocated is I must first have a base rate. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this. The base rate for the painting subcontractor, I type in 1. Yes. So 1 is the base rate. The same gets reflected in the final rate. I say, okay, I'll go and attach a currency code of USD, US dollars. I could either type in the currency code field USD, or you double click and select USD, right? So you go and enter USD, right? And there you see the final rate is calculated as 3.68. Why? Because you said $1 is 3.678, and the final rate should always reflect the AED value, which is the pricing currency value. Okay. Let me close that. So now if I come back to the subcontract adjudicator, I say rates to bill, and you notice that resource code 9016, the painting subcontractor, the rate, the final rate or the base rate here is 1. The final rate after you've allocated the currency code would be 3.68. So you've got the currency code allocated. Copy subcontractor name to resource remarks. Click on OK. Rates transferred. OK. Now, if you go and have a look, Art Deco Limited, that's the subcontractor selected. If I double click on the bill, the total still shows 51,000. Hold on, let me just click on calculate. It's 60,187 now. So 60,187. There you go. It's the total, the dirham equivalent of what Art Deco has quoted in US dollars. Okay. So remember, in your pricing, in your rate analysis, the dirham equivalent or the rates in pricing currency is what we'd use. However, if you need to get a breakdown of how much, since you're paying your subcontractor in US dollars, you want to know how much US dollars must I allow for, and we could generate a quick analysis for you here. Let's go and look at the document here with the currency split. So let's go to our painting items. And let me just click on calculate. If you notice your painting items, my rate for the item, net rate, the net amount, the AED rate, 19 dirhams. And that's the dirham equivalent. And you'll see all that money is, so there you go, US dollars, 60,187.16. Is the dirham equivalent. If you want to see, okay, show it to me in the currency of origin. So you would be, or you budgeted that you would be paying 16,364, or it would cost you $16,364 to be hiring the painting subcontractor, that is Art Deco, to do that work, painting work. So that's $16,000, and if you want to see it in your home currency, which is your base currency, you could just say column options. Show it to me in AED, which is my home currency. There you go, 60,181.16, 187.16. So it's very quick, very intuitive for you to go and generate those analysis. So we've seen the use of currency codes in the subcontract adjudicator. We'll also discuss the use of currency codes in the materials adjudicator. So here I've got a materials package for fuel. Remember the difference between the subcontract adjudicator and the material adjudicator. The subcontract adjudicator is linked to items on the BOQ, whereas the material adjudicator is linked to the resources. So here I've got a package for my fuel resources, diesel, petrol, okay, and I've got quotations from 4 suppliers: Enoch, EPCO, Emirat, and Shell. Now, if you look at the rates here, Enoch has quoted diesel at 2.85 dirhams a litre. That's a total usage of diesel on this project, 47,721 litres. And to buy 47,721 litres of diesel from Enoch at 2.85 dirhams a litre, it will cost you 136,000 dirhams. Similarly, if you notice, EPCO has quoted 2.9 dirhams per litre. To buy 47,000 litres of diesel, which is the total quantity of diesel required on this project, you would be spending 138,391 if you'd gone with EPCO rates, and Emirat, you'd be spending 138,391. But look at Shell. Shell has quoted 0.3, and if you look at the amount it's quoted, it's reported as 136,577. Something seems to be wrong here. Wait, these rates for Shell are an Omani Riyal RO. So it's actually not 0.3, but 0.3 times 10, which is your conversion rate to Omani, or 9.54. You're converting it, so 0.3 times the currency exchange rates to generate that you'd be spending 136,000 dirhams if you were to use Shell, or if you were to buy diesel from Shell. So here as well, I've got my my resource rates, or on the adjudicator, or the supplier rates from the adjudicator in a different currency, Omani Riyals, and I could transfer these rates back to my resource list. How do I do that? I can just come here and update or export the resource rate. Okay, update the rate from Shell, green tick, transfer to base rate using the currency codes as RO. So if I decide that I would be buying these resources in Omani Riyal from Shell, I could use this option. For now, I'm just going to click on. So yes, you can use currency codes in the subcontract adjudicator. You can very well use them in the materials adjudicator as well. Right. So we've looked at the subcontract adjudicator and the materials adjudicator. Then you would say, all right, does the use of the adjudicator, or the use of the currency code, is it only limited to estimating module in Candy? Can it be used in other modules as well? Let's quickly move on to the planning tab in Candy. So you would see the planning program in Candy. So here, the planning program in Candy, very intuitive, very simple to use. Planning tool. You don't need to be a professional planner to be using the planning tool in Candy. It's very logical. Anyone with a technical background can use it, and it follows the precedence method, the detailed method of planning. So all the logic links, everything that you could do in any other planning tool, you could very well do it in using the Candy planning tool. However, what makes Candy planning unique is the capability to be able to link the bill of quantities, the items on the bill, on the BOQ, with activities on the bar chart. So I'm just going to quickly show you how are the items on the BOQ linked to activities on the program. I'm going to use a link and forecast document, and here I'm going to use the document called BOQ activity allocations. So the BOQ with activity allocations, here they are. This is the bill of quantities, and let me just scroll all the way up. Okay, I've got the bill of quantities, and here what it says is, listen, you've got the BOQ, on the left hand side, and here it's allocated to activities on or it shows you to which activity is it linked to. So here clearance strip site is linked to activity clear site A060. On my BOQ, the quantity is 6,000 square meters, and I on purpose changed my final quantity, updated my final quantity. Says you've got 600 square meters more or you've still got unallocated quantity of 600 square meters, you only allocated 5,400 of that 6,000 that you've got on the bill. What do you want to do with the rest? I could just come here and update my allocated quantity total as 6,000. So now it is in sync. You might have a one-to-one relationship. So here, clear site on the BOQ is linked to one activity on the program, or it's attached to one activity on the program. You might also have a scenario where, so here, look at item D, page 1, item D, excavate for working space in class A material. I've got one item on the BOQ linked to two different activities. So I've got a total of 660 cubic meters of excavation to do. And this excavation might be happening in phases, in two phases over activity A080 and A090. Activity A080 starting mid-Feb, whereas A090, which is the second activity, is only starting somewhere mid-March. So you could take that 660 cubic meters and you could spread it over these two activities. You could do a manual spread or an automatic spread or a proportional spread that does a pro rata spread. Now, what does this generate for you is it generates what we call as a budget forecast. So at the tender stage, we said this project is going to cost you 8.2 million. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to tell you, okay, how is that 8.2 million spread over that project duration of 12 months or 16 months? Okay, so we can forecast your net over the duration of the contract using the Candy planning and forecasting tools. We can forecast your selling over the duration of the contract. So there you go. Let me just go and bring in my selling forecast. So the screen on top here is your forecast net amounts. Below I've got my forecast selling amounts. So in the month of Feb, for that item excavation not exceeding 2 meter deep, this is the cost that you, or the forecast cost that you would incur, 9,555, and the anticipated revenue, or what are you going to claim against the same item in the same month. I'll be claiming 11,000. So this gives you a very good indication of what are the ins and out of the project. Okay, we haven't discussed the timings or the retention, the payment lags and all that, which is part of the cash flow module, but this is information worth its weight in gold for somebody who's looking at the major ins and out on a project, or looking at creating a forecast. Now, are we veering off topic, Jijo? We were talking about currency analysis. What does, or how does the currency analysis come about in the forecasting? So there you go. This is your currency analysis over the duration of the contract. So yes, 8.2 million is your total project cost. Okay, and this is the provision of dirhams that we would need on the project. How is the budget or the forecast, incremental forecast for the currency forecast over the duration of the contract? So here, US dollars, you need a total of, or you need to account for 224,000 worth of US dollars, or a worth of US dollars. So this currency, or this total, is reported in AED. So here you need to account for 224,000 dirhams worth of US dollars on this job, and this is a forecast here. So you can generate a currency analysis forecast for each and every currency that have been used. So, and this is quite a useful document for your finance director, and especially in regions like, so my friends in Egypt would find it very handy, where the currency fluctuation is huge. So if you could give this information on a mega project, that this is the currency requirement, or this is my currency forecast, this will help your finance director to go and probably hedge on currencies, or make sure that they've got enough foreign currency reserves on this project to be making those purchases in the right time. Right, so that's the analysis. The cash flow module in Candy also makes use of the currency code. So let's look at the cash flow settings. You know, the cash flow is an extension of the forecast, where we go and attach parameters like when do you pay your suppliers, when do you pay your labor, what is the payment lag, how long does it take for the client to certify and pay you. Now here again, you could go and report the cash flow results in a different currency. So here I have selected my pricing currency to be AED. Okay, And we said, okay, display the cash flow in currency code US dollar. Okay, my pricing currency is AED, but I want to display the cash flow results in US dollars. Now, because the cash flow has got a time aspect involved associated with it, we also have the provision to go and define a different exchange rate for periods, for different periods. So you've got 3 periods specifically. So US dollar, $1 is 3.67 dirhams, and this rate will stand from month 1 to month 6. And if I had mentioned a different currency exchange rate, so if I, let's say for example, if I were to mention that from period 2 onwards, that is from after month 6 until the end of the contract, the rate would be, or the currency exchange rate for $1 would be 4 dirhams. I could use the updated currency rate there. Right, so this is the rate that will be used for the rest of the contract. I'm just going to leave it at 0. If I leave it at 0, what it means is the rate that I've used for period 1 will follow on for the remaining periods as well. Now for Egyptian pounds, I said, okay, for the first 4 months, the 1 Egyptian pound would be calculated, or the currency exchange rate or the factor would be 0.21. So 1 Egyptian pound is 0.21 dirhams. And month 4 onwards until the end of the contract, for the cash flow results, I would want to use a factor of 0.25. Okay, right. So for the rest of the contract, we want to use the value of 0.25. Okay. Similarly, from month 1 to month 6, we would want to use the rate of 3.67, and for the rest of the contract, 3.67 as well. So now we've selected display cash flow in US dollars. If I click on OK and if I click on calculate, basically the ins and outs for a project is calculated, and that's your result, the tabular result and the graphical result in US dollars. We've got tech notes for you to look at how to generate these cash flows. I wouldn't go into the details of generating a cash flow here, but yes, we've got documentation and video links for you to refer from our help center. I'll take you through to the help center towards the end of this webinar. Right. Now let me close this one. Let me come back and go back to the cash flow settings and say, all right, I don't want to view my cash flow result in US dollars. If I don't select nothing, so if it's left blank indicates the pricing currency. If I click on OK and calculate, you will notice that the same result, the cash flow results now, the same cash flow reported in AED. Right. So priced in AED, reported in AED. So the currency codes, the foreign currency pricing has got use beyond the estimating module as well. As I've shown you, you can use it for your forecasts, you can use it for your cash flow as well. Right. And now that we have covered the lion's share of what we needed to cover, what we are going to now look at is the reporting capabilities. Okay. So I'm going to zap. Let's go back to our PowerPoint slide. And we've covered the multiple currency subcontract adjudication. We've also looked at which other modules involve or deploy the currency code. Now we're going to talk about multiple currency reporting. Let's go back into Candy. The rule in Candy is this. I've come back into estimating. Whatever you see on screen can be seen in a report as well, or can be exported in a report format as well. So there you go, your currency split per bill item. Okay, you've got the currency split per bill item, the different currencies displayed, the horizontal and the vertical split. If this information you want to export it to Excel, yes, all the bill documents or all the documents in Candy have got this export to Excel icon on. Let me just click on export. What it does is this information that I see on screen can be dumped out to Excel. So on my other screen, there is that Excel file that's dumped from Candy. Remember, when you're exporting the values out of Candy, there's no formulas behind it. It's just numbers that go through. So you've got a neat Excel report. If you want to go and work out some calculations outside of Candy using in the Excel tool, you are very welcome to do that. I can go and print this document as it is. How do I print it? I can use a printer. It says when I try to print this working document, it says that, listen, Juju, you've got much better reporting options on the report manager there. You can go and create your templates, keep it ready. You don't have to go and print report, individual report on each and every project. Keep the templates ready. Use the report manager instead of printing from this live document as is. I said, okay, I know I have a report manager. I could go and work there, but for now, I just want to quickly print this report. So if you choose to print from the document itself, you've got minimal formatting options available here. I would just go and say, all right, bring in my section colors, click on OK, and preview this. Whatever you see on screen can be printed in a report format. Yeah, I could have customized it to print it in landscape. Because I've got too many columns on here, you would notice that my columns are spilling over to the next page and so on. Now, what we recommend is, rather than printing a report from the document itself, why don't we use the report manager? So there is my estimating report manager. Each module in Candy, estimating, planning, link and forecast, cash flow, each of them has got its own report manager. Now here I've in the estimating report manager, and what we've done is we have created a separate heading for the reports that we want to print. So there you go, my CCS standard estimating report pack, and under this report pack I've kept all the reports ready that I need. Again, like your documents, you can customize it, you can rename it as you wish, you can go and add the reports that you need. We're going to be looking at a few reports. So let's look at the currency analysis report here. Under currency, the heading currency report, I added new report, analysis report, and then I went and picked up the currency analysis report of here. If I double click on that report and preview it, this is the currency analysis report. So it gives me the resources to which the currency code has been allocated, and the breakdown of those resources and the summary therein. So here at the bottom, how much US dollars would I need on this order? So for US dollars, shown in US dollars, all the foreign total of all the foreign currencies in AED, the total of resources without the currency codes. And so you've got a lot of useful information generated coming off these reports. The currency analysis. You could see it on screen, or you could print a report for that. Okay. The resource type currency analysis. Let's just look at the resource type currency analysis. What does it generate? Okay. All right, so it gives you the breakdown of the currencies, foreign currencies used, broken down into the resource types. Okay, so resource type currency analysis. Okay, what's the total of the resources? 8.2 million, broken down into labor, plant, material, and the currency components, the foreign currency components there. Okay, you'll see that bulk of the resources on this project I would be procuring in AED. Then I've got 224,000 worth of US dollars that I need to, or equivalent of 224,000 dirhams worth of US dollars that I need to account for. So this document again gives you a good idea of any currencies that involve risk. So you would want to use it for your hedging purposes. Close this one, this message, come back here, and let's go back into the reporting pack. Let's look at our currency reports once again. Let's look at the trade currency analysis. We looked at the resource type currency analysis, which is give you the breakdown of the currency per resource type. This one gives you the breakdown of the currency per trade. That's your trade currency analysis. We've got the bill resource analysis. Now, this is one of the reports that you normally print. Let me just click on customize this report. Now, when you choose to customize this report, I can just go and click on OK, select the bill quantity, or you might want to print this report using the final quantity. Let me just go and click on OK. Let's select the bill quantity for now, and let me double click and preview this report. Okay. Right, so that's the bill resource analysis. We could also print a similar report for the resources deploying or using foreign currency codes. I've just printed this one. Now here, if you notice, this is one of the reports here. It doesn't have a currency code selector. However, most of the older reports, if I were to look at this report, right click and customize the bill of quantities report, it gives you a choice on which currency. So this bill of quantities report will ask you, okay, this BOQ, would you like to print it in GBP, the Great Britain pound, or in Saudi Riyal, or in US dollars? So let's say, for example, I want to print it in Omani Riyals, my net rate, and if I double click and preview, so there you go. That's your bill of quantities with the rates and the amounts displayed in Omani Riyal. Okay. So we've got a lot of reports that you could pick up. We also got a new report. Let me just go and add a new report. Let's go to the section called specialized bills. I've got the currency analysis bill. I've added it to my report manager already. Let me just go and print and preview, and just to see what this report looks like. Okay, so there you go, clearance strip site. What's the breakdown of that rate? The AED breakdown of the rate, the AED amount, the net amount, and the currency of original net rate, net amount. So that's the US dollar rate. So you remember it's the Saudi Riyal breakdown. You remember you're buying the diesel for that clearance strip site for the diesel used for the digger loader and the tipper. You would be paying in Saudi Riyal. You're importing it from Saudi Riyal. So that's the Saudi Riyal equivalent and the amount. So we can give you a currency analysis bill. We can give you the currency breakdown for each and every line item on the BOQ, or we could roll it up and give you a summary of the currencies and the breakdown required. Right. So we've covered a lot of ground here, and I'm sure you would find the reports, the analysis, the documents that we've shown you very, very useful. I would like to end this session by taking you through to the Help Center in Candy. Now, how does the Help Center work, and what do we do on the Help Center is under the support menu in Candy. So let's say, for example, you are somebody who's new to Candy, you have seen functionality that you would like to use, you want some more information. What we've got is we have added our entire knowledge base under the Help Center. So if I go to support, under support, click on the Help Center. Now, what does the Help Center do? Where does the Help Center take me? So the Help Center basically takes you to a website, which is our knowledge base. And here we've kept some useful information that you could use. So if you were somebody who's completely new to Candy and you'd like to know how to install Candy on your machine, where we've got the system installation and setup. You are completely new, you're a new estimator, you've got a junior estimator who's joined the team, and you want him to get started with Candy. Even before attending or sending him to our formal training course, you could pass him the estimating video starter guide, which will take him through the first steps of importing the bill, pricing, some basic pricing, and so on. If you are looking for specific information, so I mentioned cash flow during this webinar, and you're looking for some additional information on the cash flow, you would like to read up something on the cash flow. So there you go. We've done a cash flow webinar, intensive cash flow webinar. There's the link. It will take you to the cash flow webinar, the recording therein. We've got the explanation of the cash flow results, how to create a cash flow using a BOQ import, and so on. So I would recommend that you use the Help Center very, very frequently, and please go and update your requirements. So if you think that there are things that you would want to see on the help center, or if you want to contact us for support, we also have an option for you to mail us directly, or to submit a support request via the help center. So I would just click on contact support, you fill in your details, and this emails will come to you, and one of our colleagues will get in touch with you. What we have also done within Candy is we have left our contact details. So under support, CCS offices worldwide. These are all the international offices where we run support from. So if you are in the Middle East, you would obviously be contacting our office in Dubai, and this is the Dubai office landline numbers. The email where you could send in, so if it's a licensing request, you could send it to the licensing.gulf.ribccs.com. If it's support, you could send it to support. And what we've also done is we've included the phone numbers for all the consultants. So if you are calling us outside of office hours and there's an emergency, you need assistance, you need a temporary license to work over the weekend, you need assistance compiling a bill, you need help with the collection pages, but it's outside of office hours, please feel free to contact us on our mobile numbers as well. Right. So that brings us to the end of our webinar. Thank you for your time, and I trust that you now have a better understanding of the Candy foreign currency pricing. I can assure you that our team, the RIB-CCS team, is working tirelessly to add more features and value to our world-class product offerings and solutions to make your lives easier and to enhance your profitability. Thank you for your time, and I trust that you'll find these features useful in your daily use of Candy. Please remember to email your local CCS office if you want more information about these features. We will keep you informed of our next webinar, and remember, even if you can't join on the selected time, but please do still register for the webinar, then you will receive the recording, which you can then watch in your own time. Enjoy the rest of the day and see you at the next webinar. Have a great day. Goodbye for now.